Cortisol is becoming a huge issue today. More so, many people are suffering with a high cortisol level, which usually emanates from a high stress. So if an individual is going through an emotional distress, or if the individual is having a lot of stress, it be work stress or it be a personal stress, eventually leads to cortisol. Cortisol per se is not really bad for you. It is taking care of your inflammation. The problem happens when cortisol goes beyond the limits that it should be. So when you have a very high stress, then your cortisol levels are high. When they go beyond what it ideally should be, that is when the problem occurs. There are 4 simple ways in which you can get started on reducing this cortisol in your body. And the simple ways are the 4 steps that I can just tell you. Number 1. Try and make sure that you do not have too much of an EMF exposure as soon as you wake up in the morning or just before you sleep. What is EMF exposure? EMF exposure is the exposure to the blue lights or even the Wi-Fi routers or too much of radiation on you. The moment you wake up, if you're looking at your screens or your gadgets or your mobile phones, that blue light will make sure that your melatonin secretion in the night will definitely get imbalanced. If you don't sleep well, then your stress levels will continue to increase. Also, it is important that you do not have EMF exposure just before you go to sleep. So about 40 minutes to 1 hour before your bedtime, it is necessary to completely stay away from any gadgets, from any blue light being exposed to you. The second way to take care of your cortisol naturally is by increasing fats in your diet. What are the good fats? The good fats will come from ghee, or it will also come from your coconut oil. It can also be nuts and it can also be seeds. These are good sources of fat, which is nice to keep your cortisol in check. The third way to keep your cortisol in check is your protein levels. So when you increase protein very naturally through whole legumes, or it could even be sprouts, these are good ways to keep protein levels well in check and hence take care of cortisol naturally. And the last way to take care of your cortisol is through nature exposure. So when you expose yourself to nature, it can be just walking on bare ground without your slippers or shoes. It could be walking on the green grass, or it could be walking in the garden. This nature walk gives you tremendous exposure to pair up the negative electrons from the ground into your own self. It takes care of the free radicals and makes sure that your cortisol gradually comes to a reduction. I hope these 4 steps are useful to you. Get started on your cortisol journey today. This is Shweta Hunakudi. Follow for more nature cure and natural lifestyle tips. Till we meet again, Namaste.